Ben from Silicon Nubian. Today we have a very special video. We are going to build a workstation, a PC, but not just any PC. This is my personal Linux workstation. It's a combination, what I've used in it actually, is a combination of parts that we had lying around the office and parts that were recently on order and received. And if I may put in parts that are pending on order, but we'll get into that in a minute. So let's round out this build with all the parts that are going to go in it. We have the AMD A10-7850K APU. Got it at a great deal at Micro Center in the US when I was there visiting. Came with this motherboard, the Asus A88XMA MicroAtx motherboard. Good quality motherboard, FM2+. For storage, we have the Western Digital Caviar Blue 1TB hard drive. It's just going to be used for data storage. No need to get anything more extreme than that. For a boot drive, we have the crucial BX100 250GB SSD drive. We have, for RAM, we have 8 gigs of Evga DDR3 2400 MHz. We're going to get into that in a little bit. We also have the Corsair H105 240mm all-in-one high-performance water cooling unit, as I will be overclocking. And this system, the parts are always going to be moving in flux, so I got a really over-the-top cooler for now. You never know what's going to happen in the future, what's going to be inside this box. Powering the whole system, we have the LIPA N500 500-watt ATX power supply. This is the power supply we have on the test bench whenever we have systems come in that have questionable power issues. I didn't get receive, I should say, the order that I made for a Corsair unit. When that comes in, it might be swapped out, but for the purpose of this build, we're just going to use the LIPA for now. And for the case, we went overboard. No buyer's remorse, just buyer's joy for this case. I love it. I made a video of it a week or two ago. It's the Fractal Design Node 804 MicroAtx Cube case. Fantastic case, incredible in every way, and that's what we're going to use to house all these parts. Well, come along with me. You're welcome today. I'm inviting you to come along with the build. Let's get started, shall we? First things first, we want to remove the side and top panels of the case. Examine where we're going to put our components. It is a dual chamber design, this being the chamber that will house the motherboard, which will sit vertically, and this side is for your drives with all the removable cages. Of course, I'm going to take out the box here which has all the extra components, fasteners, and whatnot. So we have to make decisions now on to exactly what we're going to do. My intention initially was to mount the radiator in here and use this very nice opening and put the plate, CPU plate, on the other side. And I think I'll stick with that. It would mean I would lose the top. If I wanted to mount on top, I would lose the drive cages. But I only have 2 drives, and I believe there's other ways for me to mount them on the other side. I want to make this side of the case, this compartment that has the motherboard, as clean as possible. I could also mount the cooler here. I could mount it in front, and then I'd have to take off the faceplate. But I want to leave here as uncluttered as possible. So I think I'm going to go with my original plan and probably mount the cooler on the top if it fits. So we're going to give that a try, and we're going to get that started. Let's get going. Now that I have it pretty down to a good decision where I'm going to mount the radiator, I have to prepare the motherboard to receive that radiator cooling solution. So, being that it's an AMD, I've had to follow Corsair's instructions, which are very simple, and install their own standoffs in the motherboard. And that's it. I just have to prepare the radiator, and then I'm going to start mounting everything. Let's get going. The H105 Radiator, beautiful device, comes with an Intel retention ring installed. This is for Intel systems. it's going to go on an FM2, so I have to replace this retention ring here, which is for Intel, with this, which is meant for AMD. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to replace it. I have to push in some tabs. It's held in by 4 tabs. Push them in one at a time and pull the ring out slowly and carefully. Don't want to damage it. And then replace the retention ring. And then mounting is simple, just as moving it over the standoffs that I put on and screwing it down securely. So it's pretty easy install so far. All of this has to be done. When you're working with smaller systems, it's really important to plan every move, make sure everything is ready, so when it's time to actually put components in the box, it's not much of a hassle. And when working with even smaller systems such as ITX, it is critically important that you take a piece of paper, write down step by step what has to be done, because many times you'll have to go back and restart from scratch because you put in one component in the wrong order. This is a little bit more forgiving, but there's still a lot of preparation to do before I start dumping components into the system. So let's continue. Okay, after a little bit of trial and error, we've got everything mounted on the power/cooling side. I've got the radiator mounted, fans are mounted, the fan power cables are hidden, coming up through the top to the other side. The CPU mounting block is great in a position on the other side where the motherboard is going to be. I've relocated the drive cage to the bottom. Okay. Now I've got some space here for some cable management. Although I could have used these straps. For the time being, I'm going to use them to hold down the drive cage. That's probably going to change, but we'll see. You know, the great thing about a case and the bad thing about a really quality case like this, it gives you so many options. It's ridiculous. So here we are, the radiator with the fans have been mounted. Power supply is in. Not completely, I only got 2 screws holding it in. And all that's going to be left in this compartment is putting in the hard drive and probably the SSD. I don't know if I'm going to mount it in this compartment. When you turn this thing around, see what the other side looks like. Absolutely clean. Here is the CPU mounting for the Corsair unit, which will go like this onto the motherboard. Okay, so that's going to be real clean. We have all the power connectors. This one is for the pump. The great thing about this case is it comes with a fan controller, a 3-speed fan controller, and I've managed to pull the cables from the fans for the radiator through this top opening here to be able to connect directly to the fan controller as quickly and easy as possible. So far so good. Everything's going good so far. Let's continue. Now what we're going to do is we're going to mount the back plate. We're going to put the board in. I'm going to mount the CPU to the board first. I won't bore you with that. And then we're going to get the motherboard mounted in here and start to wire things up. Let me give you a top view real quick. You can see, hopefully, I'm hoping you can, where the radiator is mounted in the top. Right here, it's a 240 mil rad. It's going to be venting upwards. Air is going to come inside or actually be pulled from this rear fan out. So we have ventilation all around. Not enough time for any warm air to stay in any of these 2 compartments. We have the exhaust fan here. We have a entry fan here. So we have a fan pulling air in. Airflow straight across. In the rear we have air being exhausted both upwards and in the rear. I might add a front fan to increase the airflow going to the back. Quiet fans, of course. I don't like loud systems, and with the fan controller it's going to make things a whole lot better. So let's continue. Okay, so now we've got it all wired up. It's what I call dirty wiring for now. We're going to clean that up most definitely. Tie a lot of these together, tie them back. While the case is fantastic, the fan controller uses a SATA power connector for juice, and I find that the power connector is not long enough. Considering that the power supply is in the other chamber, I would have loved it to be at least another 6 inches long so I can bring it over to the chamber and route all the fan wires through there. It would go a long way in cleaning this up. Anyways, this is just a quick power on test, and if everything works fine, my monitor is right here, and it powers up, we'll definitely start cleaning all this up to get it really nice and clean. So let's turn it on. Let's see what happens. I'm going to find out what you find out. I'm looking at my monitor right now, and yes, we have action. We have life. Very good. Very, very good. System is powered on. Extremely quiet. Fan controllers here. It does get a little noisier. I prefer to leave it at its lowest setting. But right now everything looks great. I like how that Corsair symbol lights up. It's really quiet. And this is with all the panels off. Fans in the rear. Yep. Everything's going. So now what we're going to do is we're going to clean this up, and we are going to close up the box after we clean up the wiring, significantly clean up the wiring. We're going through the BIOS, and we're going to get this puppy with Linux installed. So step is now to go and get this thing prepared to make it look a little better than it does right now. Right now it looks helter-skelter, but we're gonna clean that up. Okay, things are getting really good now. It's almost near the end of the build. I've cleaned it up a bit. Not exactly to my complete liking. I hate these unsleeved cables. But again, I'm awaiting the arrival of another power supply, so that'll change. That being said, it's fairly clean. I'll clean it up a little bit more, but I really want to see this puppy working. This is the business end. This is where power and everything is delivered. What I've done, relocated the drive cage to the bottom of the case. Take off, there's 2 Velcro straps down here. I've removed them. So now mounted the drive cage securely to the bottom of the cage. Had to get a 2.5 to 3.5 inch adapter for the SSD drive. I should tell you that there are mounting points for SSD drives in the front face, inside. You can mount 2 of them. Also, there's a floor mounted area in the other chamber, but I like to have all my drives in one place. Everything's mounted good. It's very clean back here. Stuffed all the wires, the extra ugly unsleeved wires back here, and it looks really good. From the rear, it's an APU. I'll be using the internal graphics for now. Here's the back plate. Everything looks great. No issues at all. Lots of great ventilation in this case. I can't speak more highly about this case. I mean, it's not perfect with respect to the fan controller, which I would have hoped would have been on the other side. Now I was talking about the connector itself, but if the whole fan controller was moved to this side, for example, and the fan wires were long enough, we could all route it through a hole in the motherboard mounting tray, and everything would go over there. But that's a small negative. I wouldn't even take any points off. It runs great. I have Manjaro Linux installed, and it's running great. I do have to swap SATA cables here, as I did it in the back. Had some little issues with the right angle SATA cable not fitting properly in one of the drives. So now they're ordered correctly. All in all, a great build, and let me just plug it in and we'll turn it on. Just connect up the bare necessities of what I need to have this thing working. There's the initial spin up of the fans, and then everything quiets down a lot. I read a number of reviews for the H105, and a number of them were saying that it was very loud. I can't agree with that. It's actually extremely quiet. I can understand when the fans do spin up, they'll probably sound like a jet plane, but under normal use, that really shouldn't occur. Okay, I don't see that happening. Really, even in an overclock state. And I'm going to give it a try soon. Just going to log into my account here, and I'll rotate the camera so you can see that Manjaro Linux has been installed. All in all, it's a pretty fair build. In terms of difficulty, I think it's not really difficulty. I think it's an embarrassment of riches in that the case allows you to do so much and you still have to really think about it. I would say that it's not exactly 100% perfect. Of course not. Nothing is. If I was to comment anything even slightly negative about the case, the build quality is fantastic, by the way. It would be that I would have hoped that with the drive cages, here's a spare one that I didn't use. I had to take out. By the way, this case can hold 8 3.5-inch drives and has mounting places for 3 SSD drives. Actually, 9 hard drives can hold in here. There's a space here for a 3.5 and a space here for a 2.5. Is that the drive cages would at least allocate some of their space to 2.5-inch drives and give that as an option. I mean, you'd have to go out and get a 2.5 to 3.5-inch adapter if you so please. I had to do it. And it's not really a big thing. Some SSDs in retail packages already come with the adapter. But it would just be nice if on each drive cage, and there's 2 of these, you can at least have one that can take 2.5-inch drives, one space. That being said, that and the aforementioned cabling, I think it's a wonderful case, and I think it's a wonderful build. It's quite quick. I'm going to rotate the camera around a bit. Please excuse my mess. I am messy when I cook, and I'm messy when I build computers, but the computer itself is not messy. And I'll show you that Manjaro is actually running. Here we have Manjaro Linux running very well. No problems whatsoever. SSD drive makes things blazingly fast. It's been good. File manager, everything pops. I remove software. It just works really well, as you can tell. Some might say, why did you go with an APU? Well, this is the deal, okay? I'm going to move it back a bit, the camera. Sorry, don't have professional equipment, trying my best. I went with an APU because of the price concerns. I wanted a stable, solid workstation more than anything else. Performance was going to be provided more than enough with an APU. My challenge now is to get dual monitors under Linux, but I think it shouldn't be much of an issue at all. And I wanted something that had a little bit of pizzazz to it, hence the Corsair water cooler. And if I wanted, I can even put an i7 in here, for example. I wanted to use parts I had on hand. I had my power supply on hand, hard drive and whatnot. And I wanted to keep costs down while still getting a very solid and stable system that I can use on a daily basis. And I think I've done that. So I got the APU. It's more than fast enough. I mean, I have an i7 sitting here on my very long desk at the other end of it. And when it comes to stuff like video editing and whatnot, I could still use the APU. The i7 will be faster with it. But for general desktop use, the 7850K is more than fast enough. The biggest bump you can give most PCs these days is the addition of a quality SSD drive. I went with the Crucial BX100. Some people might ask, why did you go with that? go for a 850 EVO. Well, here's the deal. I'm running Linux. And under Linux, Samsung's Magician software, it does not work, or if people have gotten it to work or have emulated the settings that it does, it's not complete. So the playing field is a lot more level under Linux than under Windows with respect to the Samsung drives. Yes, they're great drives, 3D NAND, the whole 9 yards, but in the end, you want just great performance. And if you read some of the reviews out there, a lot of them of the BX100, you'll realize that sequential 128K speeds are right up there, if not surpassing most of the field, including the 850 EVO. When you get to very heavy workloads and whatnot, the 850 EVO does have an advantage, but this is a everyday workstation. It's never going to see very heavy loads. I won't be compiling 5 things at once while converting DVD or videos to MKV or whatever. It's not going to see that kind of work. And even if it does, I'm at home. This is my office. I have time. But it just didn't seem like all the advantages that were talked about were something that I would be able to see and take and actually take in and take advantage of them. Anyways, the build is done for the most part. I'm going to put on the everything now. Put on the top, put on the sides, and I could do that right now. Actually, let's see what it looks like complete. That's a nice windowed side. Just taking off the plastic protection from the window side so we get much clearer view of the inside. It also means I probably have to use Windex on it every now and then. Here we go. In. Quite a beautiful looking case, isn't it? Actually, doesn't look too bad. That unsleeved cable is bothering me, but the orientation of my desk, I'll probably never get to see it. I'm nitpicking, by the way. Anyways, that's the build for now. I'll probably have one more segment to go. I'll show you it on my completed desk running, and we'll be right back. Well, there you have it. Another build complete. This one's a little bit more personal. And with personal builds, I always learn something. It's my first time using a dual chamber design case. And I gotta say, I'm very, very happy with the. I'll probably be looking into those for my moderate to higher end builds in the future, most definitely. I love how you can keep the business end apart from the motherboard end. And I'm very impressed with the Fractal case once again. Performance-wise, I'm seeing sequential reads of in the 520 to 540 or 50 megabyte per second range, which is par for the course for SATA 3 SSD drive, so I'm very happy with that. Had no problem at all getting dual monitors set up, working with proprietary ATI drivers, AMD ATI drivers under Linux. Presently, I'm running Linux Mint, but I'm an Arch fan. I might have to go to Manjaro. I've tried that as well, and it worked great. So I'm just trying different things right now. The system runs cool, even though I have a mild overclock of about 4.2 gigahertz. The temperatures I'm getting at idle are barely 3 or 4 degrees above ambient, which is great. But high performance all-in-one water coolers such as the Corsair H105 really come into their own when you're going to overclock a decent amount with added voltage. I haven't gone up there as yet. I may not go up there. The performance is more than I could have hoped for what I'm going to use the system for, which is daily computing. Excellent system. Love it. Finally got to reuse my 2 LG 24-inch monitors, which have been sitting idle for months and months after I got rid of my last workstation. And this one's going to be around a while. So all in all, it was a great build. Really enjoyed it. Hope to bring you more videos like this. Give me a thumbs up if you like what we're doing here at Silicon Nubian. Please leave comments, and by all means, feel free to subscribe to this growing channel. We hope to blow this up, as it were, and make this a really nice channel for people who are into hardware, software, Linux, Windows. Yes, we're going to have some reviews of Windows software coming up, and other things, all things tech, cell phones, you name it. So we're just starting out, but we hope you come along for the ride, and hope you'll check us out on a regular basis. So please subscribe. Take care.